Five, four. Nope, that's not four. Five, four, three, two.
Hey everybody!
Hey everybody! Hey everybody!
Welcome back to this week's episode of The King of the Bean. I'm your host, Ian. This is Ryan, and this is Josh.
Most days.
What are you the other days?
Toad.
Toad.
That's accurate. Yeah.
Not Monty Mole.
No.
Okay. Not Shy Guy.
No.
I'm Shy Guy
Stop
some days.
asking him. He already said who he was.
I'm Shy Guy some days.
Okay, that's
It's just cool.
Wow.
No, that's Birdo.
No, bro's like, wow.
Yeah, know your sound.
Yeah. No, Shy Guy doesn't. Whatever. That's not.
What does Shy Guy do?
Wow. Yeah.
Does
I
he
was right.
really?
Yeah, I was right.
Urkel.
He's
That's
blue
Blues.
from...
Yeah.
Glad we all got that. So this week I wanted to talk about something because I just watched the documentary, and I want to talk about Quiet on Set. So we are filming this the day before episode 5 comes out, so we won't have the latest and greatest information at our disposal.
You're assuming a lot of this next episode. It's going to be the greatest.
Well, anyway. So I wanted to start by asking you guys what you thought of the docuseries.
Okay, you go first.
I think it was very eye-opening to hear a bunch of people who are in the industry, because you gotta understand that, especially back in the day, I feel like it's gotten a little better, but not too much better. That back in the day, there's a lot of toxic workplace environments, and especially towards the women in the workforce, especially entertainment of all places. It's very sexist. And we all kind of had an idea about that, but then when you finally got into it and hearing all these stories, wow, even the thing that you would to believe, Nickelodeon being such an innocent place and all that stuff.
Because I do want to preface this with the fact that we grew up during this golden age of kids TV, as they even mentioned, which was
the Snyderverse.
Yeah, the Dan Snyderverse created most of the TV shows we saw: Drake and Josh, iCarly, Zoe 101, Victorious.
Yeah.
So everything on Nick was his
Even all that.
brain, all that.
Yeah.
The Amanda show. We didn't watch all that a lot growing up, I think.
But you know about the dance
until the revival. Well, because that was from the Amanda show.
Yeah.
Yeah. I thought we were talking about the Amanda show.
No, I said all that.
Oh, sorry.
I
was on the Amanda show.
But we did watch the Amanda show. That was the one thing we grew up watching. Or that we started watching. That was in our intro to Nickelodeon. Which is really cool. It's a really cool idea to bring an SNL type show to a child audience.
Absolutely.
Because I don't think the format wouldn't work for kids.
No, but it was definitely a great
idea. But yeah, so this was what we were watching, and then for 20 years later to find out that all these bad things were happening behind the scenes, it's kind of eye-opening to everything that made those shows great. And they were great in spite of or despite all the behind the scenes and stuff.
Yeah.
I feel with the Quiet on Set, it was very crazy to see, this person that was considered the golden child of Nickelodeon not be the greatest person in the world, which I personally never knew who was the director of all these shows or whatever. I didn't read all this stuff. It's directed by or whatever. But it's crazy to hear how bad these people were. And just you never know who you're working with until you're working with them to an extent.
Sure.
And even then, some people are they're hidden in plain sight. Because there was the whole allegation. I don't know if this is a topic that is going to go into next, but the whole pedophiles on set and all that stuff.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Because a lot of people work with those people. I forget their names. I forget who.
What's wild to me, and this isn't exclusive to this documentary or even to this network as a whole, but just the fact that people knew how bad, particularly Dan was, but also even the Brian Peck dude. Like, people knew. People knew these people. People knew the attitudes, and there's so many more of these people who were on the side of this is not okay, and nothing was done about it. And
do
that's
you mean all the people who have been interviewed for like
no,
the
I mean, like, everybody on set. Everybody on set knows what these people are like. Everybody knows what Dan is like.
I feel like everyone knew how Dan was.
But
I just kind of accept that because he's the man who pays the
But I
bills.
feel
but
like
that's the thing. People accepted it, whether they agreed with it, whether they liked it or not. And I know that there was probably some people who did try to say something. But the fact that for almost 20 years or whatever, this dude was allowed to run everything however he wanted to, and there were no ramifications for his actions. He could do whatever he wanted. He could say whatever he wanted. And it just, that's what it was, is insane to me. That one person can have so much power, and that a studio would back that person because he's creating shows that people are watching.
I mean, it's money first.
Which,
but,
again, like, I'm not saying, again, I'm saying, like, that's not unique, but it's just, it's wild to me.
But I think also, everybody knew, like, yeah, he was pretty bad, but I think it sounds like he very much got worse as he went through and got more power.
Exactly. Oh, yeah, the power got
sure,
to his head.
yeah.
But yeah, it's just crazy, like, that he was abusive, and, all these people are so afraid to speak out because, I mean, first of all, as children, you're like, oh, well, he's my authority, like, I don't speak out against that. Yeah. And then, the parents are like, well, I don't want to cause a problem because I don't want my kid to be fired.
Right.
Because, this is their dream or whatever. Yeah. And I mean, that happens even in regular work cultures. I mean, there's plenty of things that I don't want to just walk up to my boss or, like, CEO and be like, oh, I'm having a problem here, because you don't want to be identified as, like, the problem, and then they'll just kick you because it's easy to do that instead of change anything.
Right, which is the whole thing, right? Like, if you have power, you do what you want. If you don't have power, you can't do anything.
Which, it's... He's just... I feel like that happens to anyone who comes into, like, some sort of power. It kind of goes to their head because they feel untouchable.
I don't think anybody...
I think it can, but to varying degrees.
Sure, it's varying degrees.
I don't think that happens to everybody.
I want to disagree with that.
Like, do you think if you got a lot of power, you would be the same?
I don't think to that extreme, but I think it would definitely change things without me knowing. I feel like that's just what power does. Power goes to your head to an extent, and you feel like you can bend the rules more to your whim because you have more authority, more...
Yeah, but bending the rules and abusing other people are not the same thing.
Yeah,
no, but it's
like,
one step
What I'm thinking is, like if I would cut corners in some things, right? Like, I wouldn't do everything. So, okay, let me use a real analogy, okay? So, when I worked at the museum and I was just a regular old worker, right? You gotta do things. You gotta go where they tell you to go. You gotta work what they tell you to work, whether you want to work that station or that exhibit or whatever or not. But then once I became a shift lead and I can kind of dictate that, if I didn't want to be somewhere, I could get someone else to do that and go somewhere I want to be. That's the kind of rules I would do. Like, I'd be like, oh, I'll be at guest relations, you go on the floor. Because I don't want to be on the floor. So if I could be at guest relations, because that's where I prefer to be, then I'm going to be there and I'm going to send someone else to do the job I don't want to do. That's how I would bend the rules when I have power. I would not abuse people and take advantage of people and do a lot of any inappropriate things. You know what I mean? Like, so I think that if you have the power, you're going to make your life easier, sure, if you can. But I don't think that everybody who gets power is going to take advantage of others with that power.
It varies. It varies. I would say that some are more extreme than others.
Well, and that's what I'm saying. I agree that I think some people will, for sure, but I don't think everyone will.
Okay.
You think everyone will?
I think so.
Anyone who is in Dan Schneider's place will act similarly to he did?
To Dan Schneider, I would say to varying degrees, but I think that they would abuse their power in some sense.
Yeah, but I feel like, it sounds like what you're saying is everybody would be evil.
They vary. Evil is not absolute. There are varying levels to evilness.
Yeah, but saying vary is such a cop-out. Like, what do you mean?
Like, like instead of having the ability of like having these people like massage you and whatnot and whatever, you would just have more people be like, hey, you go get me this thing that can massage me or whatever. You'd be demanding more things out of people because you can. It's not the same level. That's not their job.
I don't know. I don't agree
That's
with
not
that
their
because
job.
I know in my own leadership stuff, I'm very much a lead from the front kind of guy. I do a lot of stuff myself, even though I got yelled at by my boss many times because she'd be like, "Oh, you're a shift lead. You shouldn't be doing this." And I'm like, "Yeah, but I have 2 arms and 2 legs, and I can, so I'm going to." You know what I mean? And so, just in my own experience, how I am, I disagree with that.
Sure.
Because there's a lot that I do and that I have done just by myself because I can do it and I don't need to get somebody else to do it.
Sure. And I don't think all power. I mean, I think it's definitely when you feel like you have power without consequences.
Yeah, I think that's an important key.
Because I think, what is the quote? Like, absolute power corrupts absolutely.
Indeed.
So, and I definitely think he got as close to absolute power as somebody in his position could have.
Yeah.
Because the network wasn't going to take away their money child.
Mm-hmm.
But I think to say any type of power corrupts people, I don't think that's true. Because I think there are good people that do good things with their power.
Okay.
Are you saying that's not true?
I personally disagree. Yeah.
You don't think anybody does anything good with power?
No, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that there are people who would abuse it more than use it for good.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that there are some people who would choose that path, but I think that there are some who wouldn't choose that path.
Yeah, sure, but I feel like more times it would be the negative, is what I'm personally saying.
Okay.
And that's just my personal opinion.
I don't think it's entirely unjustified. Like I said, I think you can... I don't think that this documentary is a unique occurrence. No. I think it's specific in that it is this particular time frame of this particular network that a lot of people were vested in, and like you said, the golden age of children's television. But I think you can look at a lot of movie sets. I think you can look at a lot of other TV sets. I think you can look at a lot of industries, as we mentioned, and you will see similar behavior. Mm-hmm. And I think that that's probably happened for many, 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 many years.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
So... I don't wholly disagree with you, Josh. I just don't think it's as absolute as maybe you do.
Yeah, well, that's fine.
Yeah. Okay, so I want to start where the docuseries started, which was primarily All That and Amanda Bynes.
Mm-hmm. You know what I would like? This is a side tangent, I guess, but what I would like to see, because I feel like we got in this documentary series, which if those of you who haven't seen it, if you have access to Max, HBO Max, it's just called Max now for whatever reason, I highly suggest you watch it, especially if you are familiar with Nickelodeon.
It gets 100% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Even if you're not, it's a very good documentary series. It's very well produced. But what I would like to see, honestly, is more of the main stars speaking out. We got one main star who had one very specific story to tell, which is great.
Well, at this point, we've had 2 main stars, and there are a couple other stars in there.
Yeah, that's true, but she wasn't part of this documentary. But what I would like to see, a documentary or a podcast or something where, like, all of the big names, including Amanda Bynes, maybe even especially Amanda Bynes, like, sat down and was like, yeah, let me tell you what's up. Because Amanda Bynes especially, I feel like, gets a really bad rap. Because
but in Jeanette's talked about how they wanted her to sign an NDA and offer her tons of money to do so. Mm-hmm. The others might have taken that deal, and they can't say anything.
That's true.
At least for,
set them on time.
Yeah, whenever their NDA is up, which hopefully happens.
Yeah, that's true. That is true.
So I think that's part of the reason. And then also, like, Amanda and, like, Jamie Lynn Spears, I think all of them are going through, like, a lot of other stuff, and it's just, like, this is not...
But I want to... I'm sure, but I want to hear their stories. I want to hear their side of things. Like, what was it actually like for you? Because, again, like, I feel like Amanda Bynes gets a lot of crap because, like, she was this golden star and coming up and was great and everything, and then, like, fell off hard, which makes sense. given probably what she went through, but then I feel like she just wasn't given a lot of grace after that. Like she had a bad time, like Lindsay Lohan too. Like had a bad time, and stuff happened, and then people just kind of forgot about them. But
I mean, I don't think anybody forgot about like Amanda or Lindsay Lohan or
in
like
terms
Britney
of
Spears and stuff.
entertainment,
I don't think so. I mean, they fell out of the light, but I don't think anybody forgot about them.
I just
But
would
I
like
mean,
to hear their stories.
so let's start with the whole. So it starts with all that, right?
Yeah.
And this cast of young children, like preteens, is what it was. And then they said the star at that point was, I think her name was like Kat Johnson.
I don't remember names.
Yeah.
The blonde girl who was in the documentary. But she was saying that she was like the golden child before Amanda.
Yeah.
And she was going to get all these things and the spin-off and stuff. But then she hit puberty, and they didn't want her to be like the star of children's programming because they thought maybe she was going to be too sexualized or whatever.
Right.
So then they went out and they found Amanda. And Amanda was hilarious and everything they wanted. So they built everything off of her.
Yeah.
And then Dan Schneider basically built a wedge between her and her parents, even though her parents were trying to do what was right for her. I mean, gotta give them some credit. But they also, but then she got emancipated and I think fell into the wrong crowd because she didn't have those figures anymore to help her.
Who are we talking about?
Amanda Bynes.
Yeah, I watched this before, I think, you guys, so it's been a little while for me, but I feel like, because her parents were, like, super involved, right? Like, they were super involved with everything.
And it sounds like a lot of the parents were.
Or tried to be, but I also feel like I remember there being some shadiness about her dad. Do you guys remember that from the documentary?
I don't remember anything about her dad, specifically.
No, nothing about the dad.
I feel like I mean, we'll talk about another set of parents later, but I feel like I remember somebody mentioning how, like, her dad and Dan Schneider got really tight, and they would kind of, like, talk all the time and stuff, and I feel like I remember there being implications that, like, parents kind of let things happen because they wanted her to be famous or whatever, and was really loose about. I don't know, and maybe I'm misremembering, and that's fair, but I don't know if they were as protective as they could be, and I think she was emancipated for a reason. I remember it being, what my impression was, is it was similar to Britney Spears, because she had a conservatorship or something like that, and so she had to get out of that, or she was emancipated, and then she got a conservatorship, and there's something like that, and like, we know how messed up that could be. Like, we saw that with Britney. So, and that's what I remember. Like, I don't remember her parents necessarily coming across to me as being super amazing and supportive of her.
No, a lot of the other.
And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm misremembering.
A lot of the other cast from all that their parents were pretty involved. I remember it was the only black kid in there. Mm-hmm. The mom was very, like, not about, like she saw a lot of shady stuff.
Yeah.
And it was the son who was like, hey mom, let's, like, calm down about that. They're paying the bills or whatever, because he was helping basically pay for his family and all that stuff, and he was like their main source of money, and he was very aware about that.
Right.
But the mom of him was very much like, I don't know, this is not great, and all the people in Nickelodeon were just like, no, don't worry about it, blah blah blah, trying to, like, scoff her away about that stuff.
You know what I think the grossest part of that is these are all kids. Like, these are kids.
Yeah, they don't know any better.
These are kids, and they're being taken advantage of, and so much of this crap, and it's like, these are children. Mm-hmm. Like, if anything, all of these adults should be watching out for the children. Like, if you're going to be an adult and you're going to make choices or be in situations where you don't have a choice necessarily, don't feel you have a choice, and are in a situation like that, sucks. But these are kids, man. Yeah. Like, they don't even have power over themselves.
They don't know any better.
Let alone whatever situation they're in.
Yeah, I do find it weird, and I don't know how actual, like, sets are, but that there was, whenever they would be filming stuff, the parents would always have to be in a separate room that they didn't see where their kids
Which
were
is
at.
weird, and I feel like that's illegal. I feel like parents should have to have their eyes on their kids at all times for safety, and I think that they pass it off as like, oh well, there are adults there, so like they're under supervision.
Yeah, something like that. But I just remember them constantly saying that throughout the whole series. I'm like, that's weird to me. I don't know if that's like a normal thing, but I feel like
no, the parents were there on set.
They were on set, but they were like somewhere far away where they couldn't see
There
their
was
children.
a point where they were saying that they would sequester the parents while they were filming.
Yeah. They said sometimes they would ask the parents to leave, but it sounded like the parents were able to be there with their child most of the time.
No, that's not how I interpreted it at all. How I heard it was like they were far away from them, outside view, and it was like that one guy who we later find out was a pedophile, who was the one like keeping an eye on the kids.
Right.
And he was the one that all the kids would go to and whatever.
Right.
But there was all that with that. And it's just all fucking stuff. And, going into, like, any, like, production studio or whatever, you can't account for everything, you wouldn't just hire someone. Obviously, you would never hire a pedophile. But you wouldn't know that until it actually happened, sadly. So that's not something that I'm super faulting Nickelodeon for, but like there should be signs.
Well, and here's the thing, right? Like, you don't know a full person until you get to know them, right?
Yeah.
And that's fair. And that's with anybody in any context. You don't get to know somebody until you get to know them.
Yeah.
Right? So you hire someone, you befriend someone, like you whatever the situation is with someone based on what you observe and your judgment in that moment. That's fine. But the problem is once information comes out, that's when you need to make a decision about something. And when the decision is to hide and pay off and protect this person, whether it's the Peck guy or it's Dan or whoever, that's when that's 100% on you.
Yeah.
Like, you are choosing who you are defending here.
Yeah.
And, like, to talk about the Peck guy, I know we're jumping around a little bit, not going chronological at all, but, like, it was amazing to me the letters of support he got from people. Okay, but said, oh, he just made a mistake. It's like, you do not make a mistake by sexually harassing a child.
Okay.
That's not a mistake.
In their defense, and I think they even covered this in the docuseries, or maybe this was stuff I was reading on Twitter and like Reddit, is that a lot of them weren't told what really happened.
Yes, that's
and
true.
they were writing those letters in support of somebody they thought was their friend who just did something small and didn't actually, or they weren't told. They were just told, we need to write a letter of support because he made a mistake.
Yeah, that's.
So I think that's
they
why
didn't ask questions.
Apparently not.
No, because I think it was common back then to like either just not ask questions or try to keep things like so low key that,
Yeah, but
it wouldn't get out and hurt other people.
But that was definitely in the docuseries. They were talking about that. Because, a lot of people afterwards, like, oh, I would never have supported them if I had known.
Yeah, and I mean, even think about it. Who's that guy? Epstein?
Mm-hmm.
Like, everybody who's associated with him, everybody's looking at harshly. I think a lot of people who are associated with him is like, oh, if he gets in trouble, we don't want it to, like, chain reaction.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think that's definitely part of it. But a lot of them have said they didn't know nearly any of the severity of what he did or even specifics of what he did. So they were just writing it because, they knew him as, like, a coworker type of thing and were just like, yeah, he's a good guy. But they didn't know
the extent.
The
That's
stuff
shady, though, too.
It is.
For a different reason.
Yeah. Because, like, it was a different time. They didn't ask that many questions, but just hearing stuff like that, even if it just involves a kid or whatever, like that's such a like sensitive thing that I feel like people should be asking more questions.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess not back in the day.
Well, I mean, it sounded like a lot of the parents were trying to do what they could.
Yeah, some of them.
Some of them, yeah.
Yeah, where we'll talk about.
I said a lot.
Yeah, we'll talk about one in particular later.
But I do want to briefly touch on the fact that, those two ladies had to, like, split a salary.
That was ridiculous.
Outrageous.
Well, and then I forget who she. I think she went to the union eventually, and they're like, "Oh, you can't split a salary. Like that's illegal."
Mhm.
I'm like, "How did nobody approve this beforehand, or like notice that this was happening the whole time?"
Yeah.
Like 2 people for the price of 1. Like that's crazy.
It's crazy.
That's
and the fact
so
that it's
dumb.
women, and so of course they're like, oh yeah, well we want more people, so we'll pay them less, and we'll be women, so diversity, and they'll put up with it because they want to be here, and like what other options do they have? Like it's so scummy. It's like the definition of scumbag.
It is, and the annoying part afterwards too. Once the union finally found out about that, and Dan Schneider found out that, hey, were you the one who said something like
Oh,
that?
yeah.
No, yeah.
I'm gonna ruin your life if I find out that you were the one. I'm like,
Yeah.
how the fuck?
Well, and then afterwards he hires like 2 males.
Yeah.
Like 2 more male writers.
At full price.
And he fired the
full
other
price,
one.
fired-
One of the ladies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ridiculous.
It's just so.
And that's the thing, like, there's so much of this crap that was happening all the time, and we're just finding out, and I know the power dynamics, and I know retaliation, and I get it, and I get it, and I get it, and I get it, I get it, and I'm glad that the Me Too movement happened, because that allowed the door to be open, and I'm glad Jeanette McCurdy wrote her book, because I feel like that really allowed the door to open for all of this specifically. Like, she was the first one to really speak out
Well,
against
and I
this.
remember there were rumors and stuff going around. I think when it was Sam and Cat, which was like the last Snyder show, right?
I think so. Yeah.
Or last like big one.
One of the big ones. Yeah.
And
was it even that big?
No, but
it was because of Ariana Grande.
It starred very popular characters.
Yeah, because people loved iCarly and Victoria, so they were like, "Oh, that's cool." And then like a lot of the other characters, I think, made cameos and stuff.
Yeah.
So it was fun. I never watched it. I was like, I'm out. But I think rumors started coming out, and then I do think Jeanette's book is really what caused this docuseries to come out, because people are like, okay, these aren't like just allegations anymore. Like she just calls him like the producer or the man or whatever. She never points fingers at the specific person, but I mean, we all know who she's talking about.
There was one person in charge, but I think she did that in a really intelligent way.
She did. But I also think the iCarly revival probably was part of the reason too, because I mean, her experience was so bad, she wasn't willing to go to another network with the co-stars that she did love to redo it. She was like, no, that's it, I'm out. Like,
which respectable.
Good for her.
Yeah.
100%.
I do wish that if it wasn't canceled, if there was a season finale or a full finale to iCarly, that she had that cameo.
Sure, that would have been nice, but
and also because I think that'd be a cool full circle for her, and hopefully to help her have closure for everything. But
yeah,
but maybe that's not what she wants. Maybe
no,
she's
and that's completely understandable.
I'm over this. Yeah,
it would be nice for the fans if that were to happen.
I mean, I think it would be good for her too. But
depending on the person.
But anyway.
Yeah.
Hard stop
did I
there.
derail you with that depends on the person?
You just say that all the time to like invalidate what I'm saying.
I'm sorry.
I don't think he's trying to invalidate, but I agree with Josh. Like, I don't know what she would want to. I don't know if that would make her feel better. I think that's kind of ascribing what you think might make her feel better.
What you want and what actually helps aren't always the same thing.
Yeah.
Right, yeah, we don't know. But anyway, I just feel like he says that a lot and he's invalidating my thoughts.
Okay. We'll argue about this later.
Sure. Yeah, I don't know.
So anyway, Jeanette McCurdy is a hero and has been through a lot, and I respect her. And you know what? You know what's funny, and what I was telling Josh about this when we were talking about this a little bit a couple weeks ago, is like, after this documentary came out, we've been seeing a lot, there's been a lot of videos coming out of like adults on set, or even the stars themselves, like, trying to protect themselves when Dan walks around. Because he also would record stuff all the time, just walk around and record stuff.
Yeah.
Which, kind of weird, but whatever. People say he was ahead of his time.
He was vlogging before vlogging was a thing.
Right. And so there's been a lot of videos of Jerry Trainer on the set of iCarly seemingly trying to protect his younger co-stars and like getting in Dan's face and doing it in a way that is comedic and sarcastic, but also trying to redirect the focus. And it's funny seeing people like all say stuff like, oh, he's redirecting, oh, he's deflecting, and stuff like that, and like, oh, he's such a hero, and like he looks like it. And I want him to be a hero, and I'm really scared that one day something's gonna come out about Jerry Trader that he is not the hero we want him to be.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think he would have been invited back for like an iCarly reunion if they didn't all like him, like all the younger stars.
I don't know. It could. I mean, you can't not have two main cast members on the revival.
Yeah, but I think at that point, if they wouldn't want to do the revival if you're going to bring back a toxic person. If Dan Snyder was any part of that, it would never have happened.
Yeah, that's true.
That's true.
Yeah. Now, I think definitely
that's assuming a lot though.
Yeah. I definitely think it'd be very interesting for like Miranda and Nathan Kress to speak out.
That's what I'm saying. Like I would like to hear from them, especially Miranda.
Yeah, because she was on Drake and Josh and iCarly. Like, she was a Nickelodeon Golden Girl.
One of the few.
Her and Victoria Justice.
Yeah. Which, I don't know what happened to Victoria Justice.
Yeah.
It just kind of fell off.
Yeah.
But, and I don't know if you ever saw it, because even, I think it was during the pandemic, or maybe even before that. So, you've both watched Zoe 101 before.
Here and there, but yeah.
You've watched it because I made you.
Yeah.
And there was one night I was sick and I went to bed early and I put on Zoe 101 because that was like the thing I was putting on to sleep in at that time, yeah. And Josh said he was just in the other room and like every 20 minutes he just hears ooh ooh ooh. Yeah. I'm just another kind of, and he's like, I hate it.
It's just so often.
But the girl who played, what's her character's name?
Zoe?
No.
Quinn?
No. Her best friend in season 1.
Oh, Nicole?
Nicole. Yeah. I kept wanting to say Nicole, but I was like, no. Because I think her real name is like Alexa Nichols.
Something like that.
And so it's really close to Nicole, and I'm like, am I just mixing those? But she's put out plenty of videos and TikToks, Instagram stories and stuff about this before.
Has she really?
Yeah, and she was in the documentary.
Yeah, she was, yeah.
She was the only one from Zoe 101.
Which I'm like, that's cool, but then also, you got the character that was there for 2 seasons.
Well, but that's why she left.
I know that's why she left, and I think she was great, and it was really cool to see her, and I'm glad she's doing better.
But yeah, but she's made a lot of content around this in the past couple of years, and she's also a big proponent of speaking out and stuff like that. So
why she was on, and that's the thing too, is like I wonder who was asked to be on this documentary who declined.
And apparently, I was just reading that Amanda and her parents were asked, and they said they didn't have the same type of experience as others did. Right. So they didn't have a negative experience, and she's grateful for her upbringing.
Amanda Bynes?
Yeah.
I have doubts about that.
I mean, I think definitely because she was on a pedestal, because, like, even from what the Katrina or Kat Johnson person, it sounded like she had a great experience until she was yesterday's news, and Amanda was the new it girl, and then she kind of just said people started making weird comments about her, and then they kind of eventually just cast her aside and didn't include her and stuff. So it sounds like, you know, being the golden child, you're so involved in stuff, and I mean, maybe nothing inappropriate happened with her.
I just find that hard to believe, because it happened with everybody. You know what I mean?
Well, but Dan Snyder hasn't been officially convicted of anything like that. So no. I think to assume that is a little jumping the gun, for lack of a better term. But, I mean, not to say he wasn't inappropriate in terms of, like, being creepy and doing stuff like that, but I think, like, I don't think he did any illegal things.
He might not have, but I don't know. And I'm not saying he did, I'm not saying he didn't. I'm just saying there's enough evidence that he's done a lot of inappropriate stuff to adults and children alike.
It just doesn't sound like he did anything illegal.
Maybe not.
So, from what we know. And I think, especially based on the docu-series and everybody he's talked to, unless it's somebody who hasn't spoken up at all yet, like Jamie Lynn Spears or Zoe, that's the same person. Victoria Justice, for all we know, because she was also a lead, or Amanda Bynes or whatever. I mean, we don't know.
That's why I want to know.
But I think
I want to talk to them.
If Drake was able to get court action, I would think that there'd be a record somewhere that somebody would have found for this docu-series.
Yeah, but with Drake, it was anonymous. They didn't give his name because he.
Yeah, but it had Josh. Not Josh. I know it's Peck, so I keep wanting to say Josh. Brian. It had Brian's Peck name on it, so I think they would found anything in court related to Dan Schneider, but not know who did it. Is what I'm saying. So, because you can.
But they're also assuming that whatever happened has gone to court.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't know.
I don't know either.
But I'm saying,
I just would like to talk to them.
If it happened for the other guy, I'm thinking, hopefully he didn't do anything like that. But
hopefully.
But she claims to have had a good experience and was happy that she got to do all that, and then unfortunately, when she got to an adult, everything didn't work out anymore. But did you watch What I Like About You?
Yeah, we would watch it sometimes.
I don't remember if you liked it or what.
It was okay. I mean, like I've said before,
I don't even know what that is.
I'm not a huge sitcom.
They mentioned it. It was her adult sitcom.
Never watched that.
It's good. We should watch
it. It was alright. You might like it more because you're more of a sitcom person.
What I like about you, that you know how to dance. When I go up, down, top around, talk about you.
It's also just a song.
I know, but I'm also wondering if it was a theme song.
It was the theme song. Okay. It was sung by women instead of the original, which is like by a male group or something.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember that.
Mm-hmm. That's good. But I think it ended suddenly and a lot of stuff happened. But anyway, let's move on to the next portion.
Yeah.
Which is the Drake
Bell
incident, I guess. I don't know what to call it. I was gonna say controversy, but that's not the right word either.
No, it's pretty straightforward.
Incident.
That's what I said.
Oh.
But incident implies a one-time thing.
The Drake Bell experience.
I don't know if anyone wants that.
Yeah,
the Drake Bell
that's too positive
situation.
Sure.
Drake's situation.
Yeah. Let's talk about Dad. So I start on a positive note.
I think Dad did everything right.
He did absolutely.
He was very on top of everything with his son.
Very protective.
Came into this whole situation coming from a divorce. He was just spending a lot of time with his son, who wanted to be an actor and do music. He's being very involved. He became his son's manager and everything. And then, unfortunately, just like Amanda Bynes, somebody drew a wedge in between his protector and the abuser.
Yeah.
And
that spiraled pretty badly.
Then Mom did not listen.
Mom sucked. Dad said one thing. He said, keep our son away from this man. This is the one thing I'm asking him to do because this guy's sketch. Yeah. I don't trust him. I don't want him around our son. Keep him away. And what did Mom do? Hey, I can't pick you up from school, but this random guy that Dad says to keep you away from is going to take you home.
When it wasn't even fully keep him away, it was never leave him alone with him.
Right. Because he has to work with him.
Yeah.
That's fine. But one rule. One rule.
And
Mom couldn't follow that for half a second.
No. That was the epitome of what are you doing?
Yeah.
I understand your divorce could have been really bad or whatever, but has to do with your child.
Yeah, it's not about the divorce. It's about your son and his safety.
Yeah, you need, regardless of, this is the one thing your ex has to say about you, a situation that he doesn't feel comfortable with regarding your son. Yeah. You should respect that, or at least pay a little bit more attention and then make your own personal judgment out of that.
The fact that it was Drake Bell's girlfriend's mom that was first
shout out to her.
Yeah, shout out to the mom who was protective and doing her job was like, hey,
after
this
one
is
incident,
one night,
one night,
like, this is not acceptable. What is happening here? What is going on? Why is this dude calling you constantly, nonstop in the evening? What's going on here? Why?
This is
no,
not
this
okay.
is not okay.
Yeah, this is not okay behavior.
Yeah.
It was pretty cut and dry, but
yeah.
So his mom is a professional billiards player. Don't know if you knew that.
I didn't know that. It wasn't in the documentary.
I looked her up. Even last time. Her Wikipedia personal life section is 2 paragraphs. It says she is a born-again Christian. She struggled with drug addiction, including heroin, and she has a GED that she got in 2001.
Okay.
She has 6 children, including Drake, and was married to Joe Bell, who worked as a swimming pool technician. And then it lists her second husband. So that's all it says about her, even though she was a professional, like, billiards player. Like, she was a pro at a sport, and she still has nothing, like, really positive.
I mean, whatever, man. Like, at the end of the day, I just would think that your priority would be your child. Yeah. Regardless of what you're struggling with, regardless of what you're going through. And I think that it's unfortunate that she, for whatever reason, got custody of Drake at such a vulnerable time for him. And the one parent that he had that was capable of protecting him and looking out for him was kicked out, essentially, of the picture.
But Drake also kicked him out.
Yeah, I know, and that's part of it because Drake himself didn't really understand and, thought he was being too harsh or whatever, and was like, whatever, Dad, it's fine. But it's still a sad story nonetheless. That Dad tried so hard to keep his son safe.
So, I mean, we don't know if the other children lived with her or what, but, like, you have experience being in a family of more than 2 children.
Yeah.
I mean, do you think that her giving up, like, regardless of whether this guy was a predator or whatever, do you think her giving up, like, responsibilities to this guy he works with because she doesn't have time to do all of it, let's say?
No.
Is fair?
No,
okay.
Absolutely not.
No, she has to find time for all 6 children.
Find time. So here's the thing. Regardless of how many children you have, I speak from experience from a larger family. Mm-hmm. My mom would not let me go out with anyone she didn't feel comfortable with. Yeah. She personally didn't feel comfortable with.
I mean, she's afraid even your good friends were getting you into drugs.
Exactly. So, like, my mom would never have been okay. If she sensed something was wrong, she'd be like, no. She wouldn't explain to me why, but she would say, like, no, that's not what we're going to do right now. That's not, you're not going to be alone with this person. I don't care what you say. It's not good. Mm-hmm. That's my mom. My dad probably would kick someone's ass if he figured out the shit.
And that's the thing, right? Like, if mom was struggling with drugs, then, like, her perception was, she probably wasn't even there. Like, whether it was mentally or physically, she probably wasn't even there.
Yeah, which is another aspect.
And so she's like, oh, this guy he's working with, he's probably fine. Like, you just take care of my son. Like, he knows him. That's fine. So, like, I understand where that's coming from, right? Does it make it okay? No.
Absolutely not.
And it just adds to the tragedy of Drake's dad, who was there, who was present, who wanted to protect his son.
Well, and that man went from being like a pool technician to this manager who was doing so much and working so hard for his child.
Yeah, it's sad. All of it's sad. Yeah. What happened to Drake is sad.
Like, I'm glad they have a good relationship now, but...
Yeah.
They lost so many years to
tragedy of dad.
But all this stuff also just made it so very, like, kind of eye-opening and kind of a more understanding of, like, Drake's situation. Because Drake has also been in a lot of allegations.
Yeah.
With, underage people. He never did anything sexual, as far as I read, or whatever.
But, like, child endangerment, too?
Child endangerment was one of them. But you kind of hear all the stuff, and you understand it. It's not justified.
Right.
It's not okay. But it's more understandable.
And it's funny because...
where he's coming from.
Like, maybe the early 2010s or whatever till a couple years ago, I feel like I never heard about Drake Bell.
No, he kind of fell off after Drake.
Because
he did, like,
he moved to Mexico.
He moved to Mexico. He kind of did
and
music.
Then he fell off. And then I feel like...
Drake Campana.
And then I feel like he started coming back in to topics when... Because Josh was getting really big on, like, TikTok and everything. He was part of the vlog squad.
Mm-hmm. Which...
in itself is a whole thing.
I want to talk about him, too, for different reasons.
We'll get there. But and then, Josh got married
Right.
And the whole thing was like, oh, he didn't invite Drake. Drake wasn't at the wedding and all this stuff. And I feel like that's where Drake kind of started coming back into like the American spotlight and stuff. And then to see him like, finally able to tell his story.
I'm glad he had the opportunity, and I think it's very brave of him to come on to a documentary like that and for the first time tell his story to people. Like, I'm sure people close to him probably knew, right? Dad knew, his mom probably knew, like,
well, yeah, because they were probably there at court.
Yeah, but like a lot of people didn't seem to know.
When I like,
which is fair. I don't blame him for not telling people.
And one of the things that was weird for me, because like I know people talk about like sexual assault and harassment a lot. But I feel like I never understand what specifically that means because it's never said. You don't need to say it,
Well, it wasn't even said in the documentary. There's some things that were implied, but...
Well, it wasn't said in the documentary, but then if you were watching, it would show court documents that highlighted exactly what was done to Drake.
That's true.
And then, so like just... Because he would say, picture the worst thing you've ever... And then worse than that. And then I'm like, but what does that mean? And then they show you the court documents. I'm like, oh my god, that is like, how could somebody do that to another person? Is what
any person. But again, it all comes back. This is a child, man. This is a child.
Doesn't know any better.
Can't defend themselves. Can't
well,
do anything. Doesn't understand what's happening. That's the thing. There's an adult
should know better. And like when his dad approached somebody and was like, hey, I don't feel comfortable with him being around my son, he was accused of being homophobic.
Right.
Because they were like, oh, he's gay, you just probably not comfortable with gay people.
We were talking about that
which
too.
Is ridiculous.
And I told him, it's like, it's very ironic and funny to me how, like, they're very inclusive back there with LGBTQ, of all things. They got one thing, but not the best person for it, but, like, still. I'm like, oh, that's... a weird silver lining.
And again, missing the point though. It's like
missing the point.
That's not what I'm concerned about.
Very missing the point. But I just thought that was a very funny comment.
But I think also back then, a lot of people might have thought that, gay people were just weird, and so they weren't.
A lot of people back then, they thought that gay people were pedophiles. And this is a hard example.
Some people still think that.
Yeah, and this is a bad example of that.
Yeah. But but clearly they didn't think he was a pedophile. They just were like, oh, he's the weird gay guy.
Yeah.
That, maybe...
That was the only thing that I thought was kind of funny. It's like, wow.
He just makes a lot of penis jokes, but it's fine.
Yeah. It's like a weird inclusivity. Not the best person to represent
Well, like,
this.
I remember even noticing, especially more with Victorious, how weird some of the things would get. And I never watched the online stuff, because they said that was a lot less, like, monitored.
I'm sure.
Like, with the potato thing.
Yeah, dude, when they were showing that, I'm like, I don't remember that. Like, that's weird.
I remember
trying to juice a potato.
Uncomfortable.
Did you watch that when it was airing?
Yeah.
Oh, I never watched any of their online content.
Oh, I saw it all.
But even just all the foot stuff, like with even iCarly and stuff.
Oh, and I was going to mention that too, that they didn't mention any of that in the documentary. Because that's
They did mention it.
Like, kind of briefly, but because that's the one rumor. That's the one rumor that I remember hearing the last few years about Dan Schneider was like, oh, he's got a huge foot fetish. And it was so weird and like made people uncomfortable and all this kind of stuff. And I expected that to be touched on more in the documentary. And I feel like it was just kind of briefly mentioned here and there as part of all the other weird stuff.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, that was weird, but, like, that's nothing compared to what happened.
I mean,
that was basically how I felt like they were narrating that. It's like, yeah, there's this thing. That was weird.
Yeah, because
let's look at this stuff.
Because it was more part of the whole him sexualizing children.
Yeah, well, and that's shows. The thing, too, is, like... Dan Schneider was the director and the producer and a lot of this stuff, right? He was the man in charge. But he's not the person who gets the final say in what is released. That comes from Nickelodeon. Like, that comes from corporate. There are people who watch it and review this stuff and say, yes, this can air, no, this can't air. People are saying yes up the wazoo! Like, nobody, there's no quality check on any of this stuff. They're like, that's probably fine.
There was the briefest quality check, because I remember somewhere in the documentary, they were, like, talking about these inappropriate scenes or whatever. And it's like, this is inappropriate? It's like, no, this makes sense, because this kid is named this, so therefore this is fine. It's like, okay.
What was the kid's name?
I don't remember. It was some, like, phallic joke.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It was some phallic joke, and it's like, this is phallic. It's like, no, that's
and with all the squirting...
Yeah, a lot of money shots.
Money shots. That's a PG way to put it.
But, and that was weird.
It's wild to me, because again, and I think this goes back to a conversation we had of like assuming children don't know, which they don't, but also why is that there to begin with? Because adults are gonna see it and be like, "This is what are you doing here, man?" And adults did see it and just let it go.
Yeah.
20 years this man.
And kids laugh because you're like, haha, you got squirted in the face. Like,
yeah, and then adults laugh because like, haha, a kid got squirted in the face, and then afterwards they're like, oh, okay.
Like, I don't know, man, that's
but
weird.
I think squirting also, it went over a lot of kids' head because sliming was like such a big part of Nickelodeon. Like, getting goo in your face was not odd.
Yeah.
On Nickelodeon.
But it's different when it's green dropping on you versus when it's glue being shot in your face.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But what he's saying is like they desensitized us to it.
It's possible, yeah.
Like it didn't seem anything out of the ordinary to have a foreign substance go on your head.
Yeah. Or face.
Well, that's part of your head.
True. I don't know. It's weird to me how many adults were involved in this. Like, not even just on set, but even if you just look at on set, how many adults are on a set? Like, you have the director, you have the executive producers, you have the assistant directors, you have the cameramen, you have the writers, you have the grafters, you have the lighting people, you have the sound people, like you have the videographers, you have this, like, there's so many people on set, you have costume, you have like, there's a lot of people on a set like this.
Yeah, and people just accepted it because they would lose their job.
Right, exactly, and it's just wild. It's wild to me because if half of those people would have said something, again, this is 20 years, so there's a lot of turnover in that.
Mm-hmm.
But then there was like also that one guy who worked on some of the earlier stuff, who didn't work on the later stuff, who said like, he's like, yeah, I had no idea some of this stuff was even happening.
Yeah, definitely.
I don't remember what his name.
Worse. It was the cameraman, right?
That was the cameraman? The one who committed suicide?
No.
What?
Who committed suicide?
There was a camera guy who committed suicide.
No, he was
talked about briefly.
He was in the documentary, and he was one of the people being interviewed. He was more so in the first few episodes because he was more active during all that in the previous era, and then didn't I don't remember why. I can't remember his name, but you know who I'm talking about, right?
No. I do want to talk about the creepy PA. If you remember him from the first two episodes. So he was somebody that the parents would like leave their kids with because they would walk them around set. And he basically would be like their babysitter all day. Mm-hmm. And then... I
thought that was Peck.
No, this was a different guy. This was before Peck.
Oh. I know there was two.
I think it was the guy Virgil. Hold on.
What does he look like?
Yeah.
But I think his name was like Jason. And...
I vaguely remember what you're talking about.
And he was the PA that would take the kids around set.
I
and the one lady who was talking about him specifically, she was the mom of the girl who they had guest starred on like the Amanda Show or something like that, and she's like, this is my kid's dream and all that stuff, and it was a great experience. Mm-hmm. And then he started
this guy.
Hawaiian that's who I was talking about.
Yeah, Hawaiian.
He was the cameraman, wasn't he?
It said hold on, TV director and producer.
Okay.
Yeah, a lot more power.
But
even he said like, I didn't even know a lot of this was happening. Like, how did I miss this? That's a whole other conversation.
But, that guy seemed all nice and fun, and everybody loved him or whatever. And then he started emailing, a bunch of these girls, and the mom would vet the email. She was doing everything right, and then after a while, it seemed like she stopped vetting the emails coming in, because you're like, oh, okay, they're just like, they're allowed to have communication, and I don't have to read everything, because I now trust this guy. But then he sent her a picture of his junk saying, like, this is what you make me do, and all that stuff. And it's like, first of all, you're telling this to a little child.
That's what I'm saying.
Which is creepy.
You're also putting it on the internet on an email where you can easily track.
But they didn't know
well,
that.
Well, this was back in like 2002.
Yeah, 20 years ago. The internet was a different place back then.
And yet, men still figured out how to be girls.
Yep.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. Well, what do you expect?
2 little girls, and that was just a whole. And then he got thrown out in the whole case and everything, and other girls had gotten farther and stuff, and it's just like, that mom was doing everything right.
I've seen a lot of people kind of blasting that mom, and I don't remember a lot. I don't remember her exactly, but people I remember seeing some stuff recently that people were kind of like, this mom's a little sus.
Why?
I don't remember all the details, but I remember one person pointing out that she said that she wanted to be an actor at some point. She wanted her time on the camera, and so people are like, oh, well, maybe she's using this time because like she didn't protect her child. I don't know. I don't remember all the details of it, but
I think she was the mom who her mom was like in the industry and said no way. Yeah. And then her daughter wanted to be in the industry, and she's like, well, my mom wouldn't let me, so I don't want to stop her.
Yeah, and so people found that kind of sus. And the fact that she's giving the interview, not her daughter.
Her daughter was there too, wasn't she?
No.
I don't know.
She wasn't. Because I remember thinking that. I'm like, well, why is mom giving the interview? Why isn't the person who...
I mean, I definitely think it was important to also get parent perspectives, though.
I agree.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I agree.
And they did have a lot of on-screen talent already, so... And maybe the girl just didn't want to participate. She's like, I've...
It's true. We don't know. I'm not saying I don't know. I don't know. But, I just remember that.
I did think that was interesting because I didn't think in the moment and what she said, I don't think she did anything wrong. Because I definitely think you should monitor your child communicating with strangers. Mm-hmm. But once you're gonna eventually build that trust. You should be, and your child should feel trusted to talk to people without you reading it.
Yeah.
Like pass it. Like be like, okay, let me know if there's anything you're uncomfortable with, and like I'll help you deal with that. But like. I don't have to read all your back and forth messages all the time. I think that's fair.
I do think that the daughter being able because it is a weird thing to receive any junk mail.
Literal junk mail.
But I do find it nice that the daughter didn't keep it a secret.
Yeah,
because I feel like that's a lot of things that children would do is kind of keep it a secret. Like, I don't know if this is okay to share with my parents. I don't know if I'll get in trouble with it or something. Like, she just went to her mom's like, this is not okay.
Well, she didn't go to her mom. She ran into her room and her mom was like, what's happening?
Was that how it went?
Yeah.
Okay. But she still was able to communicate it.
She was able to tell her mom and be honest. And I do appreciate that. Mm-hmm. And that the mom had that type of I mean, it seemed like they had a pretty good relationship.
Which is wonderful.
And she trusted her mom and her mom trusted her. Unfortunately, this man violated that trust.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Men.
The worst.
The worst.
Honestly. Man, that's what we're gonna Men suck.
Men suck.
Did you guys see the interview that Dan Schneider had with what's his face from Tebow from iCarly or whatever?
Oh,
I didn't see it. I saw that it happened. I saw
clips of it where he was just like, "Yeah, I'm so sorry for everything that happened," and like it was like one of those fake like YouTube apologies.
Yeah.
Like very much just like not apologetic apology.
He's only apologizing because everyone thinks
he got in trouble, he got caught, and then I saw like a clip of that, and I'm like,
it's like I would never do the things that I did back in the day. It's like I don't know about that, but say what you gotta say to get the good grace of people.
I mean, I don't think he's ever gonna be in the good graces or come back as like. He might come back as maybe a writer or something, but I don't think they'll ever let him get far.
Hopefully not.
And never interact with talent.
I don't know. We say that.
Yeah.
But
I mean, I think it's so much different now.
I think it is different now.
Because even back then, Brian Peck, was convicted of all that stuff. Nickelodeon shut him out. He went to work on Sweet Life with Zach and Cody.
Which is wild to me. But also the fact that he was in jail for like 60 days or 90 days.
Yeah, it was not.
And the fact
that was it.
And the fact that he was still like, even if it's an allegation, allegations go far in anything. Like you could confuse, even if you didn't do it or whatever, people do not
look at you. Well, he was convicted and he didn't plead not guilty or anything. He was...
I don't remember.
Regardless of, but like people just like having the idea that you have this name behind you, regardless of if you did it or not, causes people to not want to work with you, especially with children.
Well, he had to register as a sex offender, didn't he?
Yes, he did.
At one point, yeah.
Yeah. After.
But even specifically with Disney, like nowadays, they would not touch him with a 10-foot pole. No. Like, keep your bad branding away from me. But I feel like
then they hired him.
Yeah.
Because Disney was different, but also people's reputations weren't so easy to find. Like, nowadays, I can go look up everybody on a crew because you have to list your credits and find out if there's any, like, registered sex offenders. But back in the days it wasn't so easy in like 2003.
Well, this happened in what? 7, 8? Oh no, this was the beginning of Drake and Josh.
Drake and Josh.
Yeah.
So 2005.
I still feel like at that time, like they should.
Well, they shouldn't
vet him.
They definitely shouldn't have, and they should have vetted him. But maybe also, you know, he had so much letters of support. People in the industry knew him. That's probably why they hired him again.
Probably, yeah.
Because they didn't know the full details.
Right. Which is wild.
And because it was a minor, everything was locked up.
Right. Mm-hmm. Privacy. Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about Josh real quick. I don't know how I feel about Josh Peck as an individual. There's a lot of, I mean, even just with this situation, I've seen a lot of conflicting pieces of information about him and what he was aware of and how his thoughts on it. Like, I've seen a lot of stuff saying him saying like, yeah, Drake and I aren't friends, so we've never been friends. But then Drake is like, yeah, we're buds, like it's all cool. So I'm like, what? And then just the fact that he's friends with David Dobrik and has hung out with David Dobrik for years, that's sus to me, because David Dobrik's not a good person either and has done so much scummy shit. Yeah. To a lot of people, and is also an abuser, honestly.
Yeah.
So I'm like, and that's his bro. So I'm like, I don't know how I feel.
I don't know about. I mean, if Josh has said they've never been friends, I don't think that's true. Because Josh invited Drake onto his YouTube channel, and they've done some videos, and they even did videos with like Miranda Cosgrove to like go back down memory lane during like the pandemic. Well, and that's what I'm saying.
Is it all for just the spectacle? Is it all a facade? Because then why would, especially after all this came out, why would you go on a podcast and be like, yeah, Drake and I aren't friends. Like, I don't, you know, whatever. We work together and that's that.
I think Josh is a very big, like, he's very into the public eye, what the public eye sees in him. So if someone is problematic, I don't know why with David Dobrik, that hasn't sailed, but anyone who's problematic, he like cuts them off and he's like, I don't want to be associated with it because if I'm associated with it, I'm going to fall down.
It's because David still has a huge following despite all his flaws.
Which is wild to me. It was wild to me that anybody even watched that to begin with, but people like what they like. But then since all the crap has come out, still popular.
Yeah.
I don't get it.
Yeah, and I hate every TV show I've seen Josh on since then.
He plays the same character.
Yeah, the pathetic
Whiny,
man.
Desperate. Pathetic man, yeah.
Which is how I see him now.
Yeah.
And because he just wants everybody to like him in every show he's in. And I think that's just who he is now. He's just like, I need everybody to like me.
Which is a shame.
Yeah. That's a therapy session right there.
That's years of therapy.
Yeah.
Didn't he also lose all his weight due to cocaine? Wasn't that talked about before?
It was definitely a drug related thing. I don't know if
I don't pay much attention to people.
But yeah. He's also recently come out saying that he had been sexually assaulted too. And everyone's just like, you're just saying this because of the whole
he's just trying to get the
attention. Which I can see that, but at the same time he could be telling the truth.
I mean, could be, but then here's my thing too. Here's my thing too with that. Is like, then why are you separating yourself from Drake at this moment? Right? Like, if you had that experience, this is the perfect time for you to, especially if you care about public reception. What would the public love more than Drake and Josh coming back together, being bros, bonding over this horrible situation, and tackling it together? That's what fans would want to see. If that's what he cares about, then this is a great opportunity for that. So if that really did happen, and he really does care what people think, and does things based on what he feels people want from him, that's the option. Not to distance yourself from Drake and be like, yeah, we're not even friends. I don't know what happened with that guy. Whatever. It's fine. I'm glad he's good, but like, whatever. And then be like, oh, but also me too. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know.
Yeah, it's weird. It's not the best way to go about doing things.
Yeah, so I don't know. And basically, is my thoughts. I don't know.
Yeah.
Just sus.
A lot of weird things. But yeah, Quiet on Set. It was a
great documentary. Definitely
recommend it. We will be watching the new episode when it comes out. Probably not tomorrow, but maybe Monday.
Maybe.
But yeah, it's very insightful into the world of what our childhood was.
It's very stressful. Like, the whole series is stressful. Like, listening to all this stuff.
I didn't find it stressful.
I was just engaged because I just want to know more.
Yeah, I was trying to watch it while working, and I ended up not working.
Sure. Yeah.
It's okay. It was a slow day, right? Because I was gonna watch one episode a day for like a couple days because it was the week I worked from home.
And you just binged
I just watched all 4.
Yeah.
Well,
It's engaging.
that's kind of what happened to me. Like I saw like a video talking about it on TikTok one day, and then I was like, oh, that's interesting. I wonder what that's about. And then I saw it like another one, and I'm like, what is this documentary? Like, I gotta know what this is all about. And so I did my research one morning. I woke up, I'm like, I want to freaking do this. And I found that it was on Max, and I'm like, I still have Adam's account. Like, I'm gonna watch it. And then I watched it all in one morning.
It's very engaging. For me personally, very stressful because I'm like, these people, why?
No, I feel you, dude.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, ugh, just hurts the heart.
Yeah. It made me uncomfortable.
See, the Drake stuff was the only stuff I didn't really know about before. Because, like I said, I've watched Nicole's stuff before. I've watched, I haven't read Jeanette McCurdy's book. I do want to at some point.
I would like to as well. I listened to her on podcasts.
I have listened to parts of her podcasts, and stuff like that. Because I was reading all about that around the iCarly revival and stuff like that. But the Drake stuff was like, wow. But it didn't surprise me or anything. I mean, something like that to happen, it was...
Yeah. It's sad that
it feels like it's too common for it to not have happened at all.
Mm-hmm.
Type of thing, and it sucks that it was Drake, and it sucks that
it was anyone. Really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A terrible situation.
Disgusting.
But hopefully we have a better system in place to prevent that. So
hopefully.
You know, that's the thing, and Josh and I were kind of talking about this when we talked about this last time briefly, is like, I want to believe that working environments are better.
Mm-hmm.
Especially since the Me Too movement started, and I just don't know if that's true. I feel
like it's definitely moving in the right direction.
I hope so.
Yeah.
I'm not on movie sets or TV sets. I would love to be, just because I would love to have that experience. But like, just based on what I do know of the industry, I don't know if it's any better.
Well, I don't know if like children are part of the Screen Actors Union or whatever,
right.
But they definitely should be, or there should be like a minors branch of people to protect, because I definitely think, especially in that industry, unions are really your only, because you can't go to people on your set, you probably don't feel safe as what happened, but it didn't seem like there's anywhere else to go.
Well, it's hard too, because kids don't have rights. Like, all rights are with the parents.
Yeah.
So, like, if something happens, it's the parents' responsibility. So, it's a really great...
But there needs to be some type of union for the kids and the parent.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So that they have a third-party person to talk to and be like, yo, is this...
I think that is important, because even if you look at the Jeanette McCurdy situation, her mom was a huge problem.
Oh, yeah.
For her. And that is not an uncommon thing in child entertainment.
Mm-hmm.
Is the parents are the problem. It's not the people they're working with always necessarily. It's the parents.
You know, he's gonna have a Jed like Drake did.
Yeah.
Sometimes you get a mom like Drake did.
Truth.
Or Jeanette.
Or Jeanette, yeah.
Well, on that note, we'll see you next time.
Bye!
Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And let us know what you thought of the documentary. And if you haven't watched it, we encourage that you do.
Yeah.
Yes.
Definitely worth a watch.
Bye.
Bye.